Alkek has tons of information, and students can access much of it through the library's website. For Bobcat Update, I'm Tyler Carthel. Finding a new place to live in San Marcos can be extremely rewarding, especially when it's the right place. For Bobcat Update, I'm Tyler Carthel. COVID-19 has created several challenges for everyone, but it looks like dancers are starting to get their groove back with Zoom. For Bobcat Update, I'm Tyler Carthel. Thanksgiving is an important time for gathering with friends and family, but if that means traveling, one has to be careful in light of the pandemic. Air travel requires spending time in long lines, terminals, and on planes. Experts say that most viruses don't spread easily on flights because of air filtration, but passengers are often seated close to one another, and that can be risky.
So I think flying during the whole COVID pandemic is just a mess because of the restrictions you would have to take. And then, so that's, I think a way around that is to just drive.
Driving in a vehicle may be safer than flying because it can minimize person-to-person contact. The important thing to remember with car travel is to play it safe when making stops along the way. At gas stations, use wipes on handles and buttons before pumping gas, and after fueling, use hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol content. Another tip would be to make as few stops as possible.
Have snacks with you so you don't have to stop and not only spend money, but then you lose time. So pack you a little lunch, little snacks, some drinks, because you want to get there. You want to get to your destination.
If you have been diagnosed with, have symptoms of, or been exposed to COVID-19, then it is probably best that you avoid in-person gatherings this holiday season. The elderly or people with certain medical conditions are at an increased risk for severe illness if they get the coronavirus.
We are now joined by Tyler Carthel. Tyler, thank you so much for joining us today. The CDC is saying that cases are going up in COVID-19, and with Thanksgiving coming up, the holidays, what are some of those risks and those rises in cases?
Yeah, right now has never been a scary time to be traveling for the holidays. With huge spikes in every single state and hotspots just about everywhere, a lot of people are really worried about whether they should even travel this holiday season.
So with that being said, what are your plans for the holidays?
We're going to try. We're going to go home, see the family at least, but we might not get all together. We might not even see all of our cousins like normally. So we're definitely going to be taking some steps back and trying to stay a little safer.
Well, definitely be safe traveling, Tyler. And for those of you out there who are traveling for the holidays, please be safe. Thanks again, Tyler.
When looking for a new apartment, often the most important part in that process is to tour the apartment. Renters often want to know what type of place they are moving into and whether it will be a right fit for them. Ashlyn Chambers struggled to find an apartment complex that would let her come in person for a tour.
Like for me, my biggest struggle was finding an apartment because everything was closed. Like either they weren't doing tours or it was only virtual tours. And like before I sign a lease, I'd really want to see the place.
COVID-19 also affects amenities at apartment complexes. Pools, gyms, and areas for dogs can often be a deciding factor for renters in San Marcos. Due to the pandemic, there are now rules for amenities, including maintenance.
And they were like, no, that we're not doing anything that requires us coming into your house right now. I was like, what? And like my AC broke and they could only look at like the outside part of it. It was literally like 80 something degrees in my apartment. It was 83 degrees in my apartment one night. And they're like, we can only look at the outside unit.
We're joined now by Tyler Carthel. Tyler, thank you so much for joining us. With these apartments going up in San Marcos and tours being limited, how are students still able to locate these apartments?
Yeah, I mean, of course, these tours are being limited, but luckily students can use an apartment locator, and that can help them find an apartment that would be just right for them.
And we've seen all these apartments going up, high rises in San Marcos. How's the vacancy?
Yeah, these vacancies are crazy, especially with the amount of Texas State students, the enrollment going down and going down. But we actually will have a story on that next week in Bobcat Update.
Thank you, Tyler.